So back to you, Joanna.
Thank you. But I am Joanna Hodorowska, and my company is Nutrition in Motion. And basically, I help you to reduce pain and stress naturally. The body can heal. That's my belief. The body can heal if you give it the right tools. Nutrition and stress relief and anti-inflammatory nutrition is really the part of setting that stage so that the body can heal. So I guess I can just talk about what it is that I do and talk about the stress relief, because nobody's stressed right now, you know. But so stress is one of those things where it's actually a good thing and it can be a bad thing. So and food is also one of those things that it can either stress you out or it can actually alleviate the stress. And there is actually a protocol that I've created that will minimize the reaction of the stress on the body. Make sense? So stress, you know, if you look at the definition of stress, it's actually a load producing strain. It's a stimulus such as fear or pain that disturbs or interferes with our normal psychological equilibrium. And that's the whole part, is like stress can be a good thing because it challenges us. It kind of makes us think outside the box sometimes. And it can actually be a process where we grow spiritually, physically, mentally. And if you're thinking about, you know, exercise, that's also one of those. You can stress the body because you want to break down the muscles and allow them to rebuild and grow larger and stronger, but you have to have that recovery period. So when stress becomes a problem is when it's actually chronic, and when you start it throws the hormones off balance in the body. It can stress the adrenals. It can the way that you eat is affected, because how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the situation, how you're triggered can cause stress. So when you're stressed, typically you are choosing things that are the comfort foods, which there's a reason why they're called comfort foods. But unknowingly, you're also spiking the blood sugar with the choices that you might be making when you're stressed, which is also adding more stress to the body and stressing the adrenals. And it may also be creating more inflammation. And inflammation causes more stress on the body. And that's a whole nother topic for another day, where inflammation is also good and bad. But when it's chronic, this is where it becomes an issue. So all of a sudden I just had this, like, what was I going to say? So the key part right now is to really kind of look at, where are we being stressed at this time? And at this time, you know, there's a lot of things that are stressing us out. And when that's what I was going to tell you about. The inflammatory foods. I mean, typically when we're stressed, what are we choosing to eat? Anybody want to volunteer what they typically eat when they're feeling stressed? Go ahead, Blitz and Donna.
Love bacon. Just go there. Like
bacon, chips. Yeah, you know, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but then you want to choose the bacons that don't have the extra nitrates and things, and you know, and actually turkey bacon is worse than regular bacon, so stick with the real thing.
Oh, cool. All right.
Crunchies.
Crunchies. So what kind of crunchies? Are you thinking like pretzels, potato chips? What kind of crunchies?
No, like harder crunch, like Fritos, like the harder crunchies.
Yeah. So Fritos, you know, I actually looked at the label. I'm one of those that looks at the labels for everything, because inflammation does cause pain. And inflammation is going to make your body more stiff, more, you know, it challenges to recover. In this time when we're trying to boost our immune system, inflammation actually utilizes our body's energy to combat the inflammation rather than combat the invaders, as I like to call them. So I looked at the label for Fritos and I was like, oh, this is going to be really bad. And it's actually not as bad as one thought, except that really? Yeah, it's actually just corn, salt, and the fat, and the oil is actually not a transhydrogenated fat, which I was kind of surprised. So in moderation, you know, if that's your choice, great. But the only thing is that corn is a genetically modified ingredient, and that can actually cause inflammation. So it's really looking at, okay, what's causing me stress? What am I eating? And the crunchy typically is a sign of obviously stress eating, but it's typically a sign of overwhelm. And the crunchy foods will be the things that actually help kind of calm you down. But when you eat the whole bag and you get the big bag, and then it's the bottomless pit, that's actually going to cause more stress later, because now you're going to beat yourself up for eating all of it. What kind of a moron am I for, doing this? And our self-talk becomes really, negative. So it's not building us up. It's actually causing more stress in the body. And then we tend to berate ourselves. We punish ourselves for doing, the eating of the crunchy Fritos. And all we really need to do is actually love ourselves, take a deep breath, get calm, and say, okay, what is really, really going on? Because if I'm overwhelmed, why am I overwhelmed? And can I choose a different strategy? Is there something that I can do? Like maybe if I'm all stressed out about traveling for my holiday trip, maybe I'm looking at the to-do list and it's just like, oh my God. And so I go reach for those chips. But if I realize that that's what I'm doing, it's not to say that I'm going to stop eating the chips, but now I'm going to have a cup of chips instead of the whole bag of chips. And now I create a to-do list and just pick one item on that to-do list. And then the crunchy thing is no longer an issue, because now you've created your own little plan. You've created a different scenario to handle the stress. So next time you actually feel yourself stressed when you're triggered or something like that, I want you to first consider being loving to yourself. And that first step is to actually take some deep breaths. And I want you to actually go through this exercise with me, because this is one of the simplest things to help you calm down so that you can choose a different method and be kind to yourself. Even if you do eat the Fritos, be kind to yourself, because that's the coping mechanism you have right now. And until you find a new coping mechanism, which is what I do with my clients, I help them actually choose differently, then it's okay that you ate the chips. You are not a bad person because you ate the chips. There's nothing wrong with you because you ate the chips. It's just your coping mechanism that you have learned, and it's okay. And you can now choose differently if you would like to choose differently. And I can often will help my clients through those triggers. So I want you to just kind of put your feet on the ground, and I want you to actually just be calm. And I want you to breathe in through the nose and kind of breathe all the way into the back of the rib cage on the count of 4. So take a deep breath in through the nose on the count of 4, and then hold for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out through the mouth on the count of 4. And typically I have my clients do this at least 3 times, but I want you to do that right now 3 times and just kind of notice how your body just calms and you feel more grounded. So breathe in through your nose, in through the base of the rib cage, hold for 4, and breathe out through the mouth for 4. And one more time, breathe in through the nose for the count of 4. Fill the base of the rib cage, hold for 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4. So how many of you feel a lot more calm and you feel like the stress just kind of lowered? Excellent. So that is probably the simplest thing you can ever do when you feel triggered, when you feel stressed, when you feel anything, besides your grounded normal self. And that will allow you to actually be able to step outside the situation and start seeing different opportunities and different solutions. Because when you're in that place of stress and your mind is just racing, the food is the easy thing to choose because it helps us cope. But when you do that breathing, you can actually start responding from your heart and responding from a place of loving, as opposed to reacting and then turning on that cascade of stress. Does that make sense? So whenever you're triggered, and of course, going into holidays, we can get triggered, especially with family events. you know, and one of those stressors is also, you know, we're afraid of speaking our mind because we don't want to trigger negative reactions. We don't want to be criticized. So that fear of criticism is so large that we tend to stay silent, and we just keep eating so that we stay silent. And then we're not really enjoying the thing, the gatherings. We're actually creating a little bit more stress. And when we're on those eggshells, that's when the stress is no longer a positive stress to help us grow. It is actually a negative stress. But you can also reframe these situations through that breathing exercise. And when you respond from your heart and lead with your heart, you will be safe. And that's really the key part. We're all here to be ourselves. And, you know, it's family challenges us on a regular basis. And it can cause stress, but if we can reframe that stress as an opportunity to choose differently and an opportunity to respond, then that stress becomes more like a adventure and an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. Does that make sense? So that first thing is the breathing. When you feel stressed, you want to just breathe, and you can choose differently. When you're under stress, the grains and the inflammatory foods, it's typically sugar, it's typically wheat, and then the hydrogenated fats. Those are the three most high inflammatory foods. And when I'm working with my clients, we actually find different options. And I'm not one to say, you know, like when I mentioned the chips, you know, if you eat Fritos, I'm going to give you permission to eat Fritos because that's your coping mechanism. But once we kind of work through the stressor, then you'll eat just that serving instead of the whole bag. And I'm never going to be the one to say, well, it's crunchy. Why don't you eat celery or carrots? I'm not going to be eating celery and carrots. I want you to actually become more kind to yourself and more kind with the choices that you have. And give yourself permission to eat the food that you crave. Because once you give yourself permission, you are creating less stress on your body. And that is going to be the key part, especially entering into the holiday season, is I want you to give yourself permission to choose whatever it is that you really want. But after you breathe, what you really want might actually change, because you're in a state of responding rather than reacting to a trigger. Make sense? One of the things in terms of helping the body to respond better from stress is to increase your intake of green vegetables. And it has to be green vegetables. And we're not talking carrots, and we're not talking peas. We're talking like kale, broccoli, spinach, cauliflower can be one as well. But those green vegetables have a lot of calcium and magnesium in it. And calcium and magnesium also are two of the electrolytes that help the muscles to relax. The green vegetables are loaded with antioxidants and phytonutrients. Those phytonutrients are the key ingredients that will help to fight free radicals, and you are creating lots and lots of free radicals when you are stressed. So it's a way to basically support the body by adding the green vegetables. And it's also high nutrient dense. So when you're stressed, you're typically tired. You can get exhausted. You know, there's a lot of other, there's pain and stiffness. The green vegetables also are just loaded with nutrients. So they have a lot of B vitamins. When you're stressed, you're also not sleeping well. If you add a green smoothie, which is why I created the JShake anti-inflammatory elixir, if you can add a green smoothie to your breakfast or to one of your other meals, that will give you lots and lots of B vitamins. And those B vitamins are coming naturally from the vegetables, and they're also going to help you have more energy through the day. So you want to replace your grains, so the wheat, the rice, pasta, pizza, things like that, and add greens to it, because that will always help. If you absolutely positively have to have pizza, then add a side salad. Put some spinach on top of that pizza. Put some, make a side of broccoli. Do anything that you can to add greens into your diet, especially when you're stressed. Make sense? So 1, we're going to breathe. 2, we're going to add more greens and try to limit the grains. And then the third thing is, when you're stressed, guess what's the first thing that people tend not to do? Anybody have a guess? They limit their self-care. So I want you to think about, what is it that you need for your self-care? And what's the minimum amount of that activity or that you need for a day? When we're getting stressed around the holidays, we feel like we're running out of time and we're taking care of everyone else. We're running around getting gifts. We're running around, taking care of all sorts of things that are also creating more stress because we feel like we're running out of time. But the key part is, we need to do our movement therapy every day. We need to find whatever it is that our heart wants us to do and what our body wants us to do that day first, so that we can show up in a better frame of mind, so that we can show up as our relaxed, calm, jovial selves, rather than that person that's on the short fuse. So whatever that self-care activity is, it may be different every single day. For me, one of my big self-care items is I need to move. And every day I need at least 30 minutes, so if I'm in a time crunch, my commitment to me is to move the way that my body wants to move on that particular day for at least half an hour. And all of you are going to have a different kind of self-care regimen, but it's really about choosing that one thing and committing to taking care of you before you take care of everyone else, so that you can actually be in your best version of yourself when you appear for others for the rest of the day. Make sense? And then one of my favorite things, I love essential oils. So there's a new one that's specifically for stress that's called Adaptive. And it's just to help the body to adapt to the stress. And it's something that you can put on topically. You can just spray it in the air, put it in a diffuser, put it in your humidifier. But it's something that, essential oils are something that actually work on the olfactory system. It works on the brain. It helps to actually calm down the body naturally. And there's other blends that will do the same thing. There's one that's called Balance. It makes you feel like, just from the smell, you feel like you're outside in nature. And that will help to help you feel grounded. And a lot of times when you're stressed, you're not grounded. You're feeling like you're scattered all in your head. And essential oil is really a very easy way. If the breathing isn't working so well, then the essential oils are another way to actually promote that sense of peace and calm and grounding, so that you can respond from a place of love rather than react from a place of stress. So these are some things that they are available. I also make custom essentials oil sprays and blends for people. So if you know somebody who's chronically stressed, that might be a really great holiday gift too, is create a blend specifically for the individual. And then the last thing I do is energy work. Because if we can reframe how you're feeling about the stress, and reframe and present a new viewpoint of the situation, then you can actually choose different options. So oftentimes in my sessions, I will work with cards, because that oftentimes is, I create the safe space, but it's a way to help the client to actually identify what is the stressor and what's the cause of the stress, so that we can actually optimize the outcome. So I'm going to pick a card for us today. because I find that the cards are always fun and they're always the right card for whatever the right situation is. And I have a lot of my clients that when they're in a state of stress and the breathing still isn't quite working, they're like, they just text me or call me and say, hurry, pick a card for me, pick a card. So I have 14 decks of cards. So depending on who it is and what the situation is, I can pick a card for the moment. So this is called embodiment, I think. And if I can read backwards, it says, I can't read backwards. I am a child of God. I am all there is. I create from love, so my life is always light. There is no pain, there is no struggle, there is only love. And I think that's perfect for, helping us remember in any times. It's like, if I can just connect to love, and if I know that I can create from a place of love, it's a choice for us to just be able to make, that we can create whatever we want when we're in that place of being grounded and minimizing that stress, so that we can choose from a place of love. And God is supporting us every single time, but he actually resides in our heart. So if we can connect to our hearts, we can minimize that stress, and the alternate opportunities and solutions present themselves when we can actually breathe, calm down, and connect to our heart. So it's looking at your stressors and seeing, okay, how do we change the stress? How do I change the way I look at the stress? Or is there a way that I can minimize the stress or eliminate the stress so that I can move forward and create from a place of love? And when we are creating from that place of love, then it's all fun, it's all exciting. And the stress isn't there because we see the opportunity rather than seeing the storm and the struggle. So then we can stay in that place of positivity. We can choose foods that actually support our peace of mind rather than the stressors that trigger us into potentially inflammatory foods and a whole cascade of negative emotions. So to kind of put into summation, when you feel stressed, first try to breathe. Do that deep breathing as many times until you feel yourself calm down and feel yourself getting grounded. Add the essential oils if that will be of benefit to help you feel grounded. Add more greens to help to the body to stay balanced and to give it the nutrients it needs to counteract the stress. And then consider energy work or maybe even the B-hole session, so we can work on what works for you, what is your trigger, and how do we optimize your nutrition and your outlook so that you can always be in that place of self-love and love, and be able to take care of you first, so that you can be there to take care of others after you fill your own cup with love. Any questions? I just see Rosita doing this. Thank you. You can unmute if you'd like. But if anybody's interested in contact me, my website is nutritioninmotion.net. If you put in .com, you'll get either Iowa or New Hampshire. So yeah, there's a couple of us in this, and there's one in Canada too. So any questions?
I just wanted to make a comment on the Fritos thing, because I've always felt guilty, because that's been my go-to for decades. I remember even in high school, I'd rip open a bag of Fritos and start chewing on them to and so recently I don't, I think, God, I just bought a bag of, and maybe in April or something. No, I didn't, because I didn't go to the supermarket. So it was even before that, maybe February last year. So the beginning of the year. So because I avoid having them in the house because it's the go-to. And I remember somebody saying to me years ago, because that's how I do. Now I buy for the crunchies, I buy the what are they? The oh God, the regular chips for chips and salsa, like
Oh,
corn
corn
chips.
chips.
Yeah, which are not as satisfying. There's something about the Fritos, guys. I have to tell you that
Yeah.
like there's a difference between like a, like the nutritionist said, well, this is a healthy crunch. If you want this, you can use this, and make sure you pull out the amount that it says for the standard serving. But excuse me, when you said give yourself permission to have the Fritos, I thought I don't have to have the whole bag. I can just do like a recommended amount for like a serving, right? And
Absolutely.
the bowl idea that the nutritionist said, like, well, just pull out a bowl, put the 10 in there of and I'm like, yeah, it's not going to cut it. It's not a
Well,
Frito.
the interesting thing is, as you're talking, it's like, you count out 10, but that feels like it's restrictive right there, and it's like, okay, well, and when you're stressed, that's sometimes what you do. I need control. I need control. I need control. But just give yourself permission. And if you
And
eat 10 or if you eat 20,
just eat the damn Frito.
just work through whatever the stressors that just came up, but just eat the Fritos and enjoy the shit out of them. Sorry, shouldn't be swearing, but enjoy them.
But I was going to say it's the same with the smoothies, because I used to say that about the smoothies. I said it's either the crunchies or the smoothies. I said it depends on the mood I'm in. If I'm sad, I want the smoothies. If I'm angry, I want the crunchies. And I said, so yeah, it's interesting that when you were, because a bunch of the things you said, and sometimes just that first crunch, or like even just going into the freezer and pull it open the freezer and ripping out the bag of fudgy wudgies and going, getting ready to attack it. Like,
yeah, well, just so you know, chocolate is my thing. And I always have Dove chocolates in right next to me at the desk, and it doesn't matter what time of day. There's always the time for chocolate. And I remember I was doing a presentation. It was a new presentation, new format, new group that I was working with, and I was like stressed out of my mind. And at the time, I think I went running. So I'm like, you know what? I only have time for that 20-minute run. And I got to clear my head. And I redid the presentation like 20 times in that run. And I came back and I was like, I know I need to have my green smoothie. I really need to have my greens, but I really want chocolate covered almonds. I really want the chocolate covered almonds. No, you really should have this. And I had that whole little conversation in my own head. And then I was like, you're stressed. Eat the chocolate covered almonds. It'll be fine. You can have the greens, after your presentation. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. And it didn't, I ended up having, I don't know how many, a handful, 2 handfuls, but I enjoyed them. It helped me in the moment. Plus chocolate is calming and grounding. And then I added the essential oils and off I went and everything went great.
Yeah. So I had a question about the vitamins. So you were talking about magnesium and C and all these other things, a B, with like a B complex thing. So those.
Well, no, the B vitamins are actually in the green vegetables.
I get
you don't need a supplement. You just need your green vegetables.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say, because I do my supplements every day and my vegetables. So, but you're saying I know they're in there, but
yeah, right. And well,
is it complementary or?
It can be, and it may not be. It all depends on the supplements, which I do energy work. I actually do nutrition response testing to identify whether the energy of the supplements is actually helping your energy or depleting the energy. And there is a balance point of it may be good, but too much is not good. But with B vitamins, those are one of those where the body will use what it needs. But it blows through the calcium and magnesium and the B vitamins when you're stressed. So your body will absorb whatever B vitamins it needs and pee out the rest. So B vitamins are not that expensive, but you're still always going to be better getting the nutrients from the real food rather than, unless you have a specific deficiency, you still want to be working on adding specific foods and food combinations to actually support the body. And that will enable the body to set the stage to help it heal and heal through the stress, not just deal with the stress.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Rosita, I was just gonna say I have those. I buy the little packs of Fritos, like a big bag of little packs of Fritos, and I've had them around for so long they went stale. But it's nice to know that you have them when you need them, you know, because sometimes. But I'm just also wondering, what if you ate them when you weren't stressed? Like, what if you ate them when things are going well? Like, I put half a package of those, like 80 calories worth, half of a package on top of my chicken tortilla soup the other day. It was like heaven. I was just in heaven, you know? So I'm just wondering that if we eat the stuff that we love when we're not stressed a little bit, maybe we won't crave it as much when we are. I don't know.
You know, there's different theories for that, and because everybody is so different, that may work for some and it may not work for others. You know,
Right.
I finally had to make peace with chocolate because I celebrate with chocolate. I'm depressed with chocolate. I'm stressed with chocolate. You know, anything and everything. I'm like, chocolate is one of my best friends. And I did an experiment. Well, I think for Lent every single year for I can't even tell you how many years, that would be the biggest punishment of all, is eliminate chocolate. And my birthday is always in Lent, always. Because, you know, when you're a March 20 baby, it's always in Lent. So, but chocolate, I'm going to celebrate. I want that chocolate cake. It's a chocolate and pear recipe cake. It's so phenomenal. So I could make it that week or two without the chocolate, and then it'd be like, you know what, this is too much pain and suffering. And it made no difference in terms of my weight. It made no difference in anything except for me and how I felt. And I was like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. We're just gonna enjoy our chocolate and make friends and know that that's my coping mechanism, and I'm okay with it.
Rhonda, I love it. And it's funny because everybody keeps saying to me, I can't believe how relaxed you've been, like that you're not even stressed out at all, that you're loving COVID, that you're like adapting, that you're home and you're like just, you know, happy. The only thing I'm upset about is, you know, not seeing my kid for, you know, my kid. I had like canceled everything for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't know about anybody else. So, you know, it's not stress, but it's, you know, it's like it's my heart. My heart is hurting because you know, I want to I'd love to be able to just hug my kids. But, you know, aside from that, I'm like loving this. That
Yeah.
people are like, you know, not coming, I can do this to people, get, you know, no, stay back, you know, like it's great, you know.
Right, you can keep your distance from the people that you don't really want to be around.
Well, no, but anybody, like the goofy neighbor that comes around here, I go, no, back up, you know.
Yeah, so this is another thing, like coming into holiday, you know, with family and stuff like that. You know, a lot of times we get triggered by what family says. If we can actually calm down and realize that, like, you know what, they're coming from a place of pain. I don't need to take on their pain. I don't need to share that pain with them. I don't really care and I shouldn't say I don't really care, but you're still trying to preserve your sanity and not take their criticisms personally, because those criticisms are sometimes a reflection of our own criticism of ourselves, but it's usually others are reacting from their place of pain. And you can choose to take care of you and not participate in those little power struggles with family. Because if you react, they win. And then they've got the power and you're feeling defeated and stressed. So I am trying to empower you to choose to just stay calm, allow for your response to come from your heart, and you will be surprised what will be said, even from you. You're like, wow, I didn't know I could be that calm and that loving with that kind of response. And it's just one of those things that if you try it, it's an experiment, but try it and see what happens. Years ago, my family, we do a humongous Christmas Eve extravaganza. It's like a 7-course meal. Nobody has enough china to do 7 different courses. You know, we're not a banquet hall. So we have to wash all the dishes in between courses. And my one sister, I have 3 of them. My one sister cornered me in the kitchen while I'm washing the dishes. I've got no place to go. And she goes on and on about, I don't even know what. And I remember saying, I don't understand. And I was like, oh, I just opened Pandora's box. Now what? And I literally did that whole breathing exercise because she was going on and I really had no idea what she was getting at. But of course, she was calling me the jerk. And I breathed and I'm like, God, what do I say now? I would like this to end. And he said, and my response ended up, I understand that this issue is more important to you than it is to me. I love you no matter what. And I'm going to go in the other room and enjoy the festivities. And it really totally diffused. It was a totally different way for me to respond, because typically I am like the short fuse, bam, reacting. And then, you know, I'm all bent out of shape and unhappy. And everybody else is like, la, 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 la. So that breathing really does make a difference. And I have actually an essential oil blend spray that's called Harmony. It works great for family gatherings or any place that you want. I'm not kidding you. It is like the best thing to spray in this space, spray on you, keeps everybody in that place of harmony. So I'm curious how it all works for all of you. And if you want to try it in the next few weeks, just breathe, connect with your heart, and see what happens.
I was going to comment that you gave some very good advice, because if you can control the stressors and how you react to it, it translates on so many aspects of your health, your sleep, you know, and how your immune system all works. And I kind of had a wake up call when I went to a dental appointment, like as we came out of that first wave, and I was able to start getting back into the practice for that kind of self-care. And my dentist comes up, and of course they start showing me all these pictures, and she says, you know, have you been grinding your teeth and at night? I go, well, if I do, I don't know it, you know. But she showed me the evidence that 2 of my molars were cracked.
Oh,
So, you know, a cap and some fillings afterwards. So the managing your stress wherever it's coming from, even when you don't realize it, just developing a discipline around some of the tips that you were giving can translate to money in your pocket. So yeah, great advice.
yeah. Well, I have a whole nother story about grinding teeth. And I had so many stressors from, you know, the way that I took on the stressors and the criticism from family. I had the mouth guard for my teeth, but I actually ended up shearing all of my teeth, like literally shearing them, you know, down to the dentin, down to almost like to the nerve exposed. And it was like, oh, okay, we have a bigger problem. And my dentist only said, oh, are you not wearing your night guard? And I wore my night guard, but I had to have actually a whole mouth rebuild. And now I don't grind my teeth at night anymore because of the way that they did it and because of all the energy work that I did. So I was not just grinding at night. I was actually shredding every single bite of food. So I wasn't chewing, I was grinding my food. And I'm a food processor, but not like that.
Does anybody have anything else to ask Joanna? I think that's some very good things that we have in our arsenal now to think about.